Hello, I'm Howard Stableford, your weekly host for Concept Cars. After the excesses of Japan last week, we zoom in now on concepts and prototypes closer to home, but they're no less spectacular. Later on, there's a chance to get inside the head of Citroen's creative chief, Jean-Pierre Ploye. We'll cut the roof off a smart car, plus the story of how that van for old 1960s hippies and surfers has had a makeover, and how Volkswagen have made a concept of a concept. This is the Geneva Motor Show 2002. Each year, this Swiss area is home to the showcase of Europe's finest concept cars. Peugeot have decided to show 2 cars this year on the theme of spades and diamonds. These low, lean 2x2 coupes feature huge, long and steeply raked windscreens and have been built from materials more commonly used in Formula One racing cars. Carbon fibre is pre-impregnated directly onto honeycomb panels to form the body shell, with a rollover bar made from high tensile steel. Peugeot have used a load of stainless steel, aluminium and leather to great effect. The 2 concepts complement each other in terms of colour scheme. The black RC Spades has a bright leather trim and upholstery, and this pillar box red Diamonds has black leather. Very nice. There are differences in the engine department too. The Spades is petrol and the Diamonds is diesel powered, both with high-spec units boasting up to 180 brake horsepower. Nice cars then, but a shame that when we were filming on press day, the journalists were more interested in the arguably more practical new Peugeot 807. Okay, bring on the showgirls. Well, one nice model who seemed to create a little more interest for the snappers. Men, we're so sad, aren't we? The Spades and Diamonds may be gorgeous concepts for this year, but Peugeot regularly come up trumps with jaw-dropping designs. Take this 2-seater roadster, which is both highly futuristic and retro at the same time. The 2 back wheels look too close for stability, but maybe a configuration like this could work even round the bends. This really is wind in your hair, flies in your teeth, and a chance to get to wear your granddad's motoring goggles he gave you. Nice one, Peugeot. And if you were to design a concept for mucking about the sand dunes with, how about this concept? The smart car. Once seen as an upmarket novelty around the city, you now see quite a few of them around. Practical for short trips and for sneaky parking in odd spaces, the downside is that it's not exactly a fun car on a nice day, is it? Enter the smart Crossblade concept car. This open 2-seater is more than a standard smart with the roof chopped off, as the interior and switchgear have had to be made much tougher and weatherproofed. It's more like a motorcycle on 4 wheels.
The idea was only to have a show car, to show what is possible with the actual smart. And it was such a great success 1 year ago that we decided in October last year to produce this car. And We had only a half a year time to develop it, because the technical base of the car is the convertible.
Everybody loved the concept, so Smart decided to make it a production car and turn it round really fast while demand was still hot. They got round this by deciding only to build 2,000 as a limited edition, which would also keep demand high.
All the cars will have a number starting with number 1 up to 2,000, and I would say there will be a big interest for the number 1, maybe for the number 007, I don't know, but I think so. Okay, and maybe for the number 2,000.
So who is the Smart Crossblade really aimed at?
It's a thing between a normal car and a motorbike. You feel the fresh air during driving. Maybe you need some glasses to protect the eyes. It's a special feeling to driving the car. And I think some customers will buy this car additional to the existing cars, maybe in the family, to their bike they have. And maybe they only use it in special times, maybe in summertime. And so we think in the southern regions of Europe, we will think the car will have a big success.
Think of French cars and you'll think of Citroen. Okay, you might also think of Peugeot and Renault, but it's really all the unique automotive history that André Citroen and his colleagues brought to the party in the early days that really stretched the frontiers of car design. Just take a look at these uniquely French cars from their early days. It's almost as if they went out of their way to make the lines of their machines far different than anything from the rest of Europe, and certainly from America. With a design heritage like this, you'd think that modern-day Citroen concepts would be bold, innovative and original. And you'd be right. The curious Osmo's car share design questioned personal ownership of vehicles in a city, revealing some attractive but maybe impractical designs, and the Citella was one of many electrically powered urban vehicles developed by Citroen. Not only was the Citella electrically powered, it was quite nippy, considering this was a project from 1992. Why, that was the last century! But have you seen the Citella's party trick? The vehicle also featured a modular body, enabling it to be transformed at will from a coupe to a mini estate to a saloon. Not quite at a touch of a button, but there's no explanation of where the old body top can be stored or disposed of. Bizarre or what? Many of these styling cues were carried over into the Eco 2000 project, which looked at the long-term future of cars in the 21st century. As well as specific concept shapes, there was much work on making petrol and diesel engines super frugal, and investigation into new fuel technologies. Plus, the latest Citroen concept, the C-Crosser, looks at how drive-by-wire technologies could affect car design. After all, without all those mechanical connections, it would open up many more possibilities, including passing the steering wheel over if you get tired driving. Left-hand drive and right-hand drive models would be things of the past. Citroen's design chief is the talented Pierre Ploye, and we caught up with him at the Geneva International Show, where he first told us how he got into car design.
I think when I was a child, I was had all these small, this Matchbox, Majorette car, and at this time I was 6, 7. I remember all these Italian concept car like Boomerang, Uraco, Modulo, all these cars, and I think it was the beginning of my passion for car.
You'd think top car designers would be influenced by other cars, wouldn't you? But Jean-Pierre gets inspiration from everyday household objects.
When we are designing a car for the future, we are more inspired by more than just car, by furniture, by architecture, by the nature. Sometimes just the nature could help us to imagine a fabric for a car, a shape for a seat, whatever.
So let's run through some of Citroen's most notable recent concepts. First, the C-Crosser.
We wanted to create in a way a kind of tool which adapted to different configurations, different needs in people's sort of very complex lives. A little bit like a Leatherman knife, something like that. You know, it's got many functions. It's a compact object. But within that compact object, you've got many different possibilities, and without too much complication, you can transform it as you wish.
According to Mark, soon many more cars will become drive-by-wire, thus freeing up design possibilities.
It's a technology which I think if it does come about and does come into production, it'll be probably the biggest change that we've seen in cars for a very, very long time.
But it was the Osmose concept that created a huge commotion when the French company unveiled the concept to an unsuspecting world.
Apart from its form, its materials, the thinking behind Osmose was that vehicles in built-up urban areas cause problems. It's a difficult relationship for all sorts of reasons. And I don't think the answer to that difficult relationship is necessarily just making it smaller, cleaner, more compact. I don't think that solves the problem. It goes a little way to solving the problem, but it's not everything. It's always going to be a bit of a sort of relationship with a bit of friction between the two elements. And so Osmose was all about thinking of prospective solutions in order to change that relationship, and that is in terms of sharing part of the car. It's in terms of using the car as a vehicle for communication to be shared with other people, and it's a way of making the object welcomed into the city centre as a useful object for everyone, rather than just a useful object for the owner.
But for Citroen, their current hot hit has to be the little city runaround, the C3, which we're now beginning to see around the roads of the UK. The C3 started out as this concept, the Lumière, which was first shown at the Paris Motor Show 4 years ago. It's fascinating to compare concepts with the production car version to see where various styling tucks and nips have been made to the metalwork, and which changes have had to be made to get the car through various essential legislative hoops. Obviously, the wide suicide doors have gone, but these are often put on concepts so the space inside can easily be looked at from outside. The compact nose and front overhang of the concept have both grown in size for the C3 production car. And we asked Danutu Coco, the design boss of Citroen's small car division, why this was.
Yes, of course, we would not prefer, for example, to have a front overhang much more compact, like the concept car had. But, you know, for safety reasons, we had, of course, to adapt, and therefore the front end grew a little bit. Yeah. But at the end, it has become more a plus than a negative part of the car, because it expresses a lot of maturity, a lot of strongness, and you feel really safe in that car, probably more than in the C3 Lumière, which had a very short and compact nose.
So why had other changes been done to the eventual production model?
In the C3 Lumière you have a concept car, and this is really rough. Very interesting experience we've done with a very creative team, and it was for us the opportunity to really explore a new way, new architecture, and there was no constraints at all, fortunately.
The cute bubble look of the C3 looks like a design trend set to continue for Citroen cars.
I mean, it was already the case, as I used to say already, on the 2CV, has been the case on the Picasso, it is the case on the C3. Wait a little bit more and you'll have probably an answer, but it's definitely a strong mark of the next product. I mean, the last few and next few products coming.
After the break, we'll bring you a dose of motoring nostalgia from the 1960s as we remember Volkswagen's camper van. much loved by hippies at progressive rock festivals, and the concept created to update the car for the 21st century. Now, if you're an old hippie, you'll recognise this immediately. The old Volkswagen camper van. We were shown the original sketch for it, showing that you don't need computers to be creative. Obviously, they didn't just wave this in the workshop and shout, "OK boys, get on with it." They refined the dimensions so that the camper van would be about the same length as the Volkswagen Beetle, and of course, the rest is history. MPVs aren't a modern invention. The seats could be taken out and in here as well. Plus, the machine was flexible for a wide variation of applications, both commercial and domestic. So why did Volkswagen stop making the camper van? Well, they didn't. A new revised version kicked in the square old 1970s, but somehow it didn't have the wonderful lines and appeal of the original. These days, of course, Volkswagen offer us the Charon, a badge-engineered version of the Ford Galaxy and the Seat Alhambra. However, this nice, cosy relationship with their shared Portuguese factory is coming to an end. Ford will continue with the Galaxy idea, but Seat want to concentrate on their sporty cars, and Volkswagen, well, they want to go it alone. With this. Volkswagen presents the microbus concept vehicle. Far out, dude. I was at the Detroit show when this was revealed, and even though I was far too young to be a bona fide hippie in the swinging 1960s, the design put nostalgic shivers up my spine. Doesn't it look great? Designed to appeal to the modern, hip, young froods who mountain hop, windsurf, and generally hang out on the road, this concept has space, storage, and loads of practical add-ons to appeal to that type of person. Plus, of course, it has the I word. Image.
People are interested in utility, but at the same time they want something with a lot of character. That's why a lot of people have been going towards the SUV, and I think this poses a nice alternative, perhaps, to the big off-roaders, at least for active people, for families and so on.
It really does bring a smile to people's faces, doesn't it, the idea of the camper?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I just think it's because it's about adventure and getting out there and exploring.
Volkswagen say that we may well see the microbus production version on our roads when the Charon has finally come to the end of its life. So that's great news, a highly practical MPV that has real nostalgic styling appeal. It's of course not the first time Volkswagen has done this trick. This is the original Beetle, if you can see it under all those flowers, a truly phenomenal worldwide hit. Now, part of the appeal of the Third Reich to the German public was that they promised every citizen in their brave new world that they would be entitled to a heavily subsidized personal car, a people's car, a Volkswagen. Of course, nobody who collected the vouchers ever got to see delivery on their front drive of a shiny new people's car. But of course, the Beetle, which was commissioned by the Führer himself, became a worldwide success story. In Wolfsburg, the Allies may have virtually flattened the factory where the car was being manufactured, but in a gesture of humanitarianism, the British Army actually helped to rebuild the Volkswagen factory there. Jobs were created, and the fabric of society in the Wolfsburg area was gradually put back together again. The Beetle was stylish, innovative, futuristic, and most importantly, was cheap to manufacture and to maintain. Millions of the cars were sold around the world to drivers who would forgive the car's harsh ride, cramped quarters, and early reliability problems. Well, let's roll on the years to the 1990s, and Volkswagen successfully hit the nostalgia button when they unveiled this, the concept car based on the old Volkswagen Bug. It really was an experiment at the time. The company thought it was great, but weren't prepared for the incredible wave of positive reaction from motorists worldwide. The people's car was about to be driven by the people for the second time, as their sway on Volkswagen persuaded the company to produce the concept car as a production model, which was done in a record time. In the UK, enthusiasts were importing left-hand drive versions direct from Mexico, and eventually right-hand drive versions were made for the British market. Even though there are quite a few of these around on the roads these days, they still have head-turning looks, a beautiful recreation of a classic car wrapped up in modern technology. But the Beetle story doesn't end with a production car. The company thought, why not make the concept from the production car? Why not? So here's the Volkswagen Dune, basically a huge customization job showing what could be done with the basic design. Outside, shiny alloys and aluminium bumpers set the lines off nicely, while inside it's goodbye to the bud vase and hello to a host of new features like these shocking yellow seats and an enormous sunroof to catch those rays, you know, next time you're motoring like in the Sahara Desert. And why drill the pedals like everybody else does when you can have a drilled aluminium effect on the whole floor? The Dune concept, magic. Well, that's all we have time for this week. But on the next edition of Concept Cars, we focus on some of Britain's car designers, some of which are based in the UK, creating cars like this Rover Tourer, and some based overseas, like the Brit behind this amazing Nissan 4x4. We'll see you then.